Hi, it's Lenny Liebman of Dark Reading, and I'm here at RSA San Francisco with Don Meyer, who's head of cloud and data center for Check Point Software. How are you doing, Don?
Great, Lenny. Thanks for having me today.
So the first thing I want to talk about, since you're head of data center and cloud, is how the cloud, maybe including SaaS, since people don't include that always in cloud, how it has affected our cyber risk.
Great question. And ultimately, cloud means a lot of different things to a lot of different people, depending on who you're talking to. But yes, SaaS is a component, has been one of the fastest growing components. But now we see infrastructure as a service really starting to come into its own. And there's a number of reasons for that. But ultimately, cloud does impact our cybersecurity posture tremendously in many respects, because the people that are subscribing to these services or spinning up these new services tend not to have a strong security pedigree. These tend to be more DevOps focused or application centric individuals. The second side of it is that it's a service, so there is nothing for us to physically plug into. We don't own that infrastructure, so I can't go and plug into a tap or a span port and kind of see what's going on. So I'm at the mercy of the service provider giving me information they think is going to be relevant to me. And at the same token, they go about and spend a great deal of money protecting that infrastructure. But they tell you it's a shared responsibility model. So whatever you carve out of that infrastructure, it's up to you to be able to find the right security capabilities and bring them in there. And most of the time that gets lost in the translation. Obviously, these cloud service providers are telling us, hey, we spend a ton on security, come to the cloud, it's great. But make sure that you understand it is a network, and like any other network, it is prone to network-borne types of attacks. So putting the right security in place is very, very important.
Yeah, and are there particular types of attacks that we're seeing now that organizations are using a combination of data center and multiple cloud models?
Interestingly enough, we're seeing the gamut. Everything from malware and ransomware types of attacks to basic misconfigurations or poorly constructed infrastructures, if you will. So yeah, there's a lot of different challenges. And when it comes to malware and it comes to the malware attacks, we're seeing that malware is now very polymorphic. It attacks multiple different vectors simultaneously. It's designed to spread itself so rapidly. Getting a handle on it means that we have to look at security, especially now in the cloud, a little bit differently. Have to look at it from a holistic point of view in terms of what endpoints are interacting with it, what is our user community doing with it, and how is our infrastructure constructed? What kind of security groups do we have? What different ways we've segmented our infrastructure? What does that look like? What does that entail? What is allowed to communicate with what and why? And how are these applications really supposed to behave so that I can leverage some of this information and really put in place the right policies? But more importantly, extend the right security capabilities to wherever my data, my networks, my users, my endpoints are all going. And that is really addressing what we're seeing this next generation or generation 5 or 5th generation of attacks kind of addressing or going after. This polymorphic, multi-vector, kind of very sophisticated and highly automated approach means that the traditional ways of doing security that bolt on when you find a new problem, buy a new solution for it, and have all these disparate solutions that are individually managed doesn't work anymore. We need to think of it more from a holistic standpoint, from a clearer, more centralized standpoint, to be able to do the right things to secure our networks.
And I'm assuming then that's kind of the philosophy behind what Check Point is actually delivering.
Exactly. At Check Point, we are really focused on helping organizations get a handle on the 5th generation types of attacks, and more importantly, bring 5th generation technologies into play to help them address this new threat landscape as we've seen it. Last year should have been an interesting wake-up call for everybody with the WannaCry outbreaks and the Petya and NotPetya outbreaks, the amount of ransomware we saw affecting all sorts of different organizations. The legacy technologies that we've been using are still important, but they're not being utilized in a sufficient way and or being upgraded enough to where we can address this Gen 5 threat landscape from a very succinct and fundamental point of view, which means we're still stuck in old Gen 3 or Gen 2 technologies in some respect. We need to upgrade. We need to get more of a holistic, more of an architectural approach, if you will, and that's what we're doing at Check Point.
Yeah. And it's great that you're talking about sort of Gen 5, technology for Gen 5 sort of attacks, but it's not just technology, right? I mean, there's also a lot of process and culture and organizational stuff here, especially if the InfoSec team is being asked to protect an environment that is changing so quickly, and people are sort of spinning up SaaS services without telling me.
Boy, that's a phenomenal point. And something I always harp on a lot is people always ask me, what is the best technology I can? What's the thing that's going to solve all my problems? And I always tell them, security technology is one component. Security is about people, processes, and technology, all three of which have to be in unison. All three have to be in harmony. If any one of those areas is effective, then our security posture breaks down and we're affected. That means education. It means understanding your role in this, as well as what the technology is going to do for us. So absolutely, education, making sure that we're talking to our employees, that they understand what the technology components are, but what their responsibilities are. If something is to happen, what do they need to do? How do they keep their systems up to date and make sure that they're using the right technologies and the right tools and doing it appropriately per defined processes and procedures? That's education, and that's an ongoing endeavor, but it's certainly a very important endeavor as well.
Yeah, and also the CISO just trying to get more budget so he can hire more people and do the education, right?
Well, that's going to be a challenge with budget shrinking. We're all being asked to do more with less. Education is going to be critical as we move forward, absolutely. And having a way to be able to centralize a lot of what it is that we're doing. So we have instant access to the information. We can see a threat as it's propagating across the network. We can correlate different events to see the actual threat view as opposed to the individual component views. That's going to be key as well, so that we have actionable information ready at our disposal to be able to utilize so that we can mitigate things in a much more effective manner. That, coupled with the education, coupled with the technology, we've got a holistic kind of architectural approach that we can utilize as we go forward looking at combating these Gen 5 attacks.
Great. Anything else you want to share before we wrap up?
Yeah, and for more information on Gen 5 and kind of what that architectural approach can mean to your organization, please come by and visit us at the Check Point booth here at RSA. Visit us at checkpoint.com. There's tons of great information on our website about what we're doing with respect to Gen 5.
Great. Thanks so much for your time.
Lenny, thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Lenny Liebman of Dark Reading here from RSA San Francisco. Thanks so much for watching.